What's up, everybody? Welcome to Inside the Seams, where we bring hitters and pitchers together to talk about the game so it can grow. I'm really excited about this episode. You're going to love it. Let's get going. Hey, y'all, real quick. So earlier this week, me, John, and Mark were having kind of a planning meeting, just talking about some stuff that we're working on together, individually, all that stuff, right? And it just turned into such a real cool, authentic conversation. And so I just decided to press record and just let y'all have an insight to some of the cool conversations that me, John, and Mark get to have just about baseball, life, and everything in between. So that's kind of what this episode is. I think you'll really enjoy it. So just enjoy this kind of patio couch conversation, and you're going to love it.
That's awesome.
There's a video on one of our channels. How old were you?
I was probably 23, 24.
Backyard, just snowball, just 100 miles an hour straight into a tree.
Throwing snowballs in pit 2. Here we go.
I used to make a pile of them because I'd struggle with my hands would get cold, so I made a bunch of snowballs.
Yeah.
And then I set up a tire, and I just blast this tree. It was like pretty extreme downhill, but it was downhill.
Yeah, I love it.
Like if I can throw strikes here doing this,
I can throw with a baseball.
I'm gonna be all right. Yeah, and sometimes I can't feel my fingers, but here it comes.
Yeah. I love
I
that.
thought the tree was gonna fall over.
Just cut it right in half.
Yeah, he just sliced it in half.
Chainsaw snowball.
How's he doing? Have you talked to him recently?
Been a little bit. I know he's busy doing a lot of the stuff for the Professional Ball Players of America, which fires me up. It's great.
Yeah.
That's that guy.
Yeah, he's a gem. He's
Dude.
he's putting in work for all of our peeps.
Yeah,
Making,
which is super important.
It kind of lost its roots, and now he's kind of getting them all going again.
That's cool. It should be, I mean, easy is relative, but it should be a simple thing, right? Just to have the resources, and it's staggering when you look at the numbers, right? Like when you look at those numbers or NFL players, it's kind of likened to, like vets too, when they come home, where it's just like there's just so many guys that are in trouble that shouldn't be in trouble.
I think it's especially mentally, it's like guys need some support too sometimes. It's like you're used to being with all the dudes and you're traveling on the road and and then all of a sudden you're back in real life or whatever you want to call it. And it's like, it's a change. So it's something we notice a lot around here. We even get college guys sometimes that'll just come in random and just, hey, can I just hang out? Yeah, like, hey, can I hang out?
It's
whether they're playing or not.
Yeah, it's a vacuum. It's such a vacuum, and that's something I'd love to be able to get into more. Like as there's more freedoms and stuff, like as far as just like professionally and business wise and stuff, because there's just like just being able to help with that stuff is a huge thing, man. Because it's like there's nothing like it, and we can never duplicate it. It can never be duplicated again. And so just like, closing that chapter and then moving on is not, it sounds so simple, but it's just, I think guys finish and then they just go and they continue to look for it. And it's just, you're never going to get it. It's not the same, because of the camaraderie, because of 100 different things, but it's a huge deal. So I'm glad he's doing it and working on it. And
I think like once the time's gone too, like it's gone, and it's something that there's a lot of guys that have a lot of regrets that eat them up too, whether they did something or they didn't do something or they should have done more. And I think that's why, for us, we're really emphasizing to guys like, hey, leave it all out there. Like if there's a stone, let's flip it over and see what's under there. Let's, plant some new seeds. And like, also I think with the brain health stuff, it goes beyond the game. And it's something that, even something as simple as the CES unit that you use, it's something that helps guys, just flat out helps them.
Yeah. When I think even and that's what it is, right? I think one of the biggest takeaways I got away from using that little system was like I was just able to kind of like be and just kind of zone out a little bit, you know? And like it seems like such a weird concept, but like we don't do that anymore. We don't just zone out. We don't just like do that because everything's just quiet. Like that's literally like we were just sitting there like watching those baseball things, you know? Like I had that thing on and I'm just like, man, like I'm good, like right here for like the next like 4 or 5 hours, you know? Like and like I think that it's just we don't have it anymore, you know? Because we go anywhere, man. People are freaking pulling for this and buy this and do this and these 4 steps will make you a millionaire, like whatever it is, you know? And like in that moment, I was just like, man, I'm good.
Yeah,
right
or on
here.
a screen or yeah.
Or anything, right? Like I was talking to a buddy about our test and he was like, well, you're doing learning styles. And I was like, well, I was originally, but I think I'm not going to in this first round. And he was like, well, why not? I was like, because everything's visual. You can't, everything's visual now. Like, you know, like, and you see things, right, visually, but like, I was like, everything is intake through here now. And like, so it's almost like you have to go to like a tertiary level to be able to figure out how they do that. And then once it hits the brain first, once it hits the eyes and goes to the brain, and then that first initial reaction, then what do you do after that? But I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have to do some more research on that, like just like do more case studies for myself to understand that. So, because everything's just bombarded, man. Like everything. Like, I mean, even something as simple as going in and just turning off some of your push notifications, like helps. You know, like that's been part of the plan that I've like with some of our guys, like just put into practice. Like, hey man, during the year, like turn your push notifications off on like all your apps. I was like, I know it sounds weird, but like, just turn them off. Like, who
Or
cares?
do not disturb. Like when I come here, my phone's on do not disturb. I mean, you know that you probably tried to get a hold of me before, and it's on do not disturb because when I'm here, I want to be where my feet are at. You know, that's, as you know, something big that we like to teach and preach. And you know, if you're where your feet are at, you know, everything's there, you know, right in front of you versus stuff that's all over. And I think it causes extra stress and distraction, and you're worried about things that are all over the place, you know, in the future, the past, or somebody else's life versus just being right where you're at.
That's right.
Huge game changer, especially when you're on the mound. That's where you better hit, or in the batter's box. That better be where you're at.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Well, I think like it's so funny, right? As I, you know, just continue to always learn, right, and do research. It's funny now because like lots of people are just now getting caught up with the millennials, right? And some millennials are almost 40. And so then people we've gotten kind of caught up with the millennial. Now they're trying to learn about Gen Z. And like there's already this next generation that's coming right up that will be, so I think Gen Z is 95 to 2012, right? So like you have kids, right, that are about to be in middle school that are going to be completely different than Gen Z. And most people haven't even figured out how to do Gen Z, right? And because it's just like, it's crazy just how different it is, right? And I think that like there's going to be a return back to the center of like just being where your feet are a little bit, like relaxing, like because we don't have it. I mean, they're going back to flip phones, like and they're spending like big dollars on it too for marketing. It's literally a flip phone. That's all it is. Like that's 10 years older, 15 years older, right? Yeah. So it's like, yeah, it's just interesting, right? And then I think there's going to kind of be a return back to that a little bit because like the anxiety, like they're just now starting to see the influences and the anxiety that are actually real, right? Not just like what people think is there, right? It's actually real, right? And I think that I was talking to a group of guys a couple of weeks ago, and it was a group of older white men that were very typically from this style of, you know, just a very specific style of living and jobs and all that stuff, right? Just very not fixed mindset per se, but just very used to one way of doing it. And I was like, well, I said, here's the biggest thing that I would encourage you with these younger kids. That's one of the biggest things I've noticed. And one of the guys that erupted, and he goes, is that they're lazy. They just want everything handed to them. And I was like, no, not at all. He's like, they're just entitled. I'm like, no, not at all. I said, let's walk through a scenario, right? When you were, some of these guys are 60, right? 50, 60 years old. I said, in your time frame, right? When somebody would talk mess about you, you'd meet them before school and you'd handle it one way or the other. Either you got handled or he got handled. One way or the other, somebody got handled, right? And like, that was kind of it. And you know, if you either, a lot of times you just fought it out and you were done and it was okay. You were cool with the guy after that. I said, well, now what happens is, you know, like somebody sends a picture to one person and the next thing they know, 10,000 people see it, right? Then the next day it's turned into they're this, and now they're being called into the principal's office because they're a terrorist, right? And it's like, that's a whole lot different than what you were going through when you were going through. Now, is it worse? Is it better? It's none of those adjectives. It's just a reality of that, right? I was like, and then if that guy says, hey, I want to handle it, he's going to get a charge and he's going to get kicked out of school and go to an alternative school, which is always going to be he's always going to be said he graduated from X high school, which is an alternative learning high school. And it's like, that's a little different. That's a little bit different than just what had to go through, right? And it doesn't mean it's worse. It doesn't mean it's better, because I do think there is some sense of entitlement, right? I do. But I think also something to consider is like one of my mentors, he's a generation above me. He would always say about people that would complain about millennials and Z's. He's like, well, you can complain about that. That's totally fine, but you parented them. Mm-hmm. So if you're being critical of them, then you need to take a mirror and go, where did I do this? And where can I take the lead now? Where can I fix that, instead of, you know, get off my lawn type of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and I think it's just super important. I think we're going to come back to that center of like, and I think that's why it's so important to like what we do, and like even just everything, the relationships that we have, like that all three of us have, and just like something as simple as, hey man, I struggle when my hands get cold, so I'm gonna pick snowballs up and throw them. Like, it seems so simple and so whatever, right? But it's just that art balance of, I'm gonna look at the Rapsodo, I'm gonna talk to this, I'm gonna watch this, and then I'm going to put all that on my tool belt and then just pitch, right? I'm going to do all that stuff, look at all that stuff, put it on my tool belt, and then take a deep breath, and ain't none of that there, right? And I think that's been something I've been like super passionate about the last little while, is like, these kids know more than anybody ever, baseball wise. They know the swing, they know the mechanics, they know, relatively speaking, right? But like, they don't know the flip side, the feel side, how to turn that off, how to funnel it, right? And really, our job as coaches is just shift it a little bit, instead of having to inform, and then they can do the assimilation part a little bit. Now it's just, okay, they know more, so now we're just helping the funnel part a little bit, right? And that's where I'm just excited for just the model of just how so many other people do it, to just move forward with that, right? And I think it's super important and super valuable, and I don't know, that's why it was cool, that's why, like when Zing or like you talk, or like Mark, like when I come in January, like I'm just gonna sit and listen, not because like I don't want to talk, but I genuinely just want to hear what you're saying before I can respond, right? Because I think as soon as we can get out of, this needs my response, the better. You know, like most times it doesn't. It does, like, you know what I mean? And like that's what I love. That's what I love. Like, you know, when we're in Alaska, like I'm sneaking out. There were 3 or 4 times, I kid you not, I had a hitting group, right? that like led to another hitting group, Mark. And So like there were a couple times where I kind of left my guys hanging because I went over and I was just listening to Zing talk. Because I just wanted to hear. I saw him doing something, and I was like, "No, like, hey, y'all need to hold on a second. Like, I'm gonna go because I really want to hear him explain this." Right. And what I started doing is I just started bringing them with me, right? And I was like, "Hey, watch how this is rotation and stopping and blah blah blah." I was really just, I wanted that to make sense because like I wanted to be able to hear that. And so I think that it's just it's gonna come back to that center, right? Of hey, I struggle with throwing balls in the cold, so I'm gonna pick snowballs up.
It's
Right.
okay to be human.
That's right. That's facts.
But I think embrace the stuff that's uncomfortable too. We talk about that all the time, but it's like you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. What does that mean? It's like, we had a workout this morning, right? And we're doing it, and you get to that third set, and it's uncomfortable. First couple sets, like, yeah, all right, you're going, you're grooving, and then it's like you got to dig down a little bit. You start to get the sweat that's dripping off your nose and off your eyebrows. That's a little bit different
That's
gear than you're in when you're getting going. But I think you got to continue to push yourself. We believe in what we call that chaos theory, right? Where we're going to constantly change up the variables. We're going to, in our training, we might do the same exercises. We're going to do them in a different order, or we might do them for time or distance versus reps.
Yeah.
Different variables that make you have to mentally go to a different space because our bodies adapt so quick, right? It's like you pick something up and all of a sudden your body finds an easier way to do it. And so we like to make sure we continually kind of stir that up and mix into chaos. I mean, look at the World Series. You got, they hit 5 home runs, Phillies, and then all of a sudden they get no hit the next night. It's like, this is just a crazy game. So sometimes our methods have to be as such, where we do it to our groups, especially, but where it's like we're still playing baseball or we're still working out, and we're still doing the same stuff, but we're going to mix up how we do it.
There's also a rain away today. What are you going to do?
Yeah, that's right. No,
and adapt 100%. And conquer.
Yeah, that's it, right? And I think that just that fact alone and instilling that into humans I'll say that I'll make the statement, and I don't care if people agree. That is the greatest thing and the greatest gift you can give another human being is to make them do that, in my opinion, because
life, right?
100%. Because like just when you don't have it, right? When you don't have someone looking at you being like, hey, like, I'm not going to help you, but you can do it. It's just completely different. It's completely different. It's like, I'm right here if you need me, but you don't need me. So go. Right. And I think that's people, and there's this thing, right? As far as like, when you're from 0 to 7, right? There's a lot of just like you almost live like in a dream state, right? It's before your conscious really starts developing and separating and doing all of these things, right? And so like that's why kids can see, let's say like a box and be like, hey, it's a rocket ship. You're like, oh yeah, that's a nice box that you're making a rocket ship. They're like, no, this is a rocket ship. Like you don't get it. This is a rocket ship. And like explain to my daughter, right? I would not say I'm the most naturally creative person, right? Imagination wise, I struggle with that some, right? And so she's very that way. I'm picking this stuff up and moving it forward. She's like, no, Dad, that's for the fire. And I'm like, fine, okay, whatever. And then I pick this up. She's like, no, this is for that. And I'm like, all right, fine, like whatever, right? And so like, but what I was realizing, right, is like that's it. That's the whole deal, right? And when they're in that frame of mind, they're so that 0 to 7, right? They're literally learning hundreds and thousands of rules. They're learning hundreds and thousands of just how the world works, how you interact, how you do this, all while in a dream state, right? And I think that that's where some of that doesn't happen, right? Where it's like we do it and we help and we undergird because we care, but in the same point, it can cripple at times, right? without because especially if they can establish that in that dream state, now those rules that they're learning, forming of their subconscious and their conscious thought, like it's completely different, right? To where it's like, I'm not afraid of failure as much. Like it sucks or it hurts, but I've done it before, and I was okay and I survived, right? I think that's where some of that like fear of failure, fear of man, fear of whatever it's always gonna there's always gonna be the opportunity to take that, right? Because it's just how our brainstem works. The only thing more powerful like than like love and fear, right, about the same power, right, in your brain, and like because they're very far down here, right? And you can actually get to fear faster than you can to love, because love you have to work at, right? But it's like so there's always going to be that fear, but just being able to like embrace that a little bit more, right, is at a younger age is super important. And if it doesn't happen, that's why it's so difficult when people are older, I think, right? Just from listening to people that are smart about this stuff, like that's why it's so hard, because it's not only are you going against what they learned in their dream state, which now has become their conscious and their subconscious. Not only are you going against that, but then you're asking them to rewire their conscious state and then go back into and potentially replace a thought, right, that was in their dream state and they're 0 to 7. And it's like, man, you just people are like, nah, man, I'm good, bro. I'm gonna go to a new instructor. Like, I'm good. Like, I don't want to do that. And yeah, I think it's just one of the best gifts that you can give somebody. It's just like, this is a palace of failure. I need you to fail 10,000 times today at this. I got nothing for you. I got nothing to throw at you, right? I got no stones in my hand to throw. And
we can find what works too, right? Because it's like, in order to find out what works, you got to sort out, what other than works, what's failure or feedback or whatever you want to call this stuff.
100%.
Even
right?
movement wise, like a lot of the movement stuff we do sometimes, where it's exploratory, but it's trial and error. You're trying to do stuff. You're trying to, counter rotate while you're landing, or you're trying to unload, or hey, I'm doing high knees now with something, or there's a lot of variables within. And I think a lot of times too with your workouts, if there's a play mode too, where it's like, okay, we're doing some stuff that's, feels like you're not even working out, but you're definitely still getting work done. And especially with your movement stuff, 5 ounces in a glove, right? Or a 30
quite
ounce
literally
bat.
Yep, quite literally.
It's relatively light to most of the things that we run around and lift or squat or bend or twist. So it's kind of fun sometimes just to play with just your body and do things, or even we do a lot of stuff non-dominant, where it's like,
I like that.
Go ahead and throw left-handed, and you're like, well, I'm right-handed. Well, okay, throw left-handed.
Still throwing
Learn how.
I hit righty.
Learn how.
Take a swing lefty.
That's right. No, I love that. Yeah, I love that, because it just
Like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen?
You're going to look stupid. Well, you already did on that last pitch, so who cares?
Right.
It can't be any worse.
It's okay. It's okay.
And that's it, right? And I think that, yeah, exactly. I love it. Yeah, it's just so valuable, and I don't think it's talked about enough. And it's really not hard to do, right? It's really not. It's a fear thing, right? It's a fear of missing out. It's a fear I'm going to lose this kid as a client. A fear their parents are going to be this, and it's like it's the same thing.
Well, it's like, is there a perfect drill? Right?
I don't know.
You get guys all the time, right? I get messages all the time. Hey, what drill should I do? Like, they'll send me a video. Hey, what drill should I do? And I'm like,
I don't answer.
A whole bunch of different athletic variables, but really, drills are drills. We need to execute.
That's right.
With our delivery or with our swing in a game. The drills are to teach feels and to find out what works and what we're throwing out. But
yeah,
some of it's just like what we're talking about, where it's like, okay, you sucked at that, or okay, You know, hey, you've never done it before. You do some yoga, yeah. You do a new position. Hey, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's right. Right.
Keep going.
On. Well,
Keep going.
I like to say it as like when we're hitting on the tee, our goal is to suck because we need to find the shortcuts for what we're about to go do, whether that's front toss, live machine in this instance, or games or this, right? It's like I'm finding shortcuts. So now in the game, when I feel long or I feel like, my front side was light or I feel whatever, now I've got a shortcut cue, which is, big foot down, big foot heavy, like whatever it is, right? Where that clicks in my brain and now my brain fires off and now I don't have to solve a problem. I go do that right away. And so that's all it is, right? That's what the work is to find the shortcuts, to find the cues, right? Where it's like, now I know, now I can fix it, as opposed to success. Well, like, I don't know.
Or how
what
about
that
just
means.
feeling good, right? Like some guys, you'll ask them, like, "Hey, how do you feel today?" I'm like, "What?" And it's like, "Well, how do you feel? Like, is the ball coming out, or with your swing? Hey, does it feel good?" Sometimes you're gonna feel like terrible, and you still got to go out and get it done. So, getting too much of a "Hey, does that feel good? Does that feel good?" is also kind of a crutch because it's less than realistic, where it's right. Even we talk about routines all the time, right? Where it's like, okay, if you are a routine guy, which most of us are, and you only have an A routine and that's the only way you can get better, you're in big trouble. Okay. I especially developed that as a late inning reliever, and then kind of playing, especially in Mexico, where it was like I didn't know when I was going to throw, and I had to be ready like this. So it's like if I had to do 20 bands and 30 jumping jacks and whatever, if I had this routine like I used to have, I kind of had to just throw that out the window, or I needed to get all that work done pregame so that mentally I could click that box, and then once my name's called, I'm ready.
Yeah. But
you get attached to that. You get too comfortable, and it's like,
that's right.
All of a sudden you're comfortable, we need to shake it up.
That's right.
We do it here with setup. Sometimes we'll just change stuff up because it's like we need variables. We need to mix things up. We need to have chaos. Hey, where do you put that one thing? Oh yeah, there's the tennis balls over there now, or PVC pipes are over there.
Riyadh has legs in here because it has probably moved.
That's awesome.
But there's a little bit of a method to it, you know what I mean?
100%.
It's not just, hey, we like I mean, yes, but there's chaos because the game is chaos.
That's all it is, really. Right? I mean, like, all you have to look no further than the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
Game 3 to game 4. And like, they weren't close either. Like, they weren't anywhere close to getting a hit.
Questioning some things right now.
Yeah, 100%.
On the off day.
Like, I'm pretty sure like there was one ball hit hard that I can remember. That's it. And like, so it's just, and then it's like, and then you look at even like that they were able to potentially pick up some tipping stuff, right? Like, then the next guy's not going to have that, or he's going to adjust it. And then you gotta like, okay, I can't look for that anymore. But then it's constant chaos. I think that's what
new game.
Mm-hmm.
literally, right? Like, it's mind blowing, man. Like, and that's why this game's so special, because
that's beautiful.
Like, it's quite literally beautiful, right? Like, it's just, how do you explain that, right? And you got the old heads and the John the John Smoltzes of the world that are, have all the answers for everything and stuff, but it's
just with a different board.
Every time, and new pieces every stinking time. Like, I mean, it's just crazy, right? I mean, like, just like Pena misses the bunt and then he hits a rocket, which I think that at bat was more important than Bregman's, because he did what he did and shook the guy up, right? Because he thought he had him 0-2. Like, I'm going to bury him. Like, we're going to be good. Like, I'm going to get him to roll over, whatever. Completely changed the inning. Yeah, Breg hit the crap out of the ball. Like, But
yeah, and his was 0-2 too. You could just see he made that, like what you're talking about, where it's like, I even heard him talking about it. He made an adjustment, literally, to use your words, is what he used too. But it's like he felt long or something, and then he just wanted to be shorter. So he's actually the guy that has a 2-strike approach, which is weird nowadays. But he had a 2-strike approach and tried to stay within himself. He said, and all of a sudden, that kind of thing's happening, and that's. I think with the World Series too, it's fun watching. I love watching guys play the game for the team. Versus, like, I think a lot of times in season, stats, numbers, contracts, a lot of that stuff gets involved where it's like, this is the time of year that's fun to watch, and you can even feel it with the energy where it's like they're playing for the team. You're hitting to get to the next guy.
Yeah,
and it's like you heard guys come in and it was a no-hitter. They weren't even thinking about it. They were, but they weren't. They were thinking about that pitch. They weren't thinking about the no-hitter. The announcers were talking about it. But if you're thinking about the no-hitter, we all know it. What happens? You get whacked in the gap.
Like, and
one pitch at a time, like we're talking about.
Yeah, I've caught some and played, like, had some thrown against me and then played into, like, I don't ever think about it that much, especially as the catcher. Like, I never thought about it. I would see all zeros. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it literally doesn't matter.
Well, because it can go like that.
Exactly. And how many times has that happened? That has happened more times than there's been no hitters. People have brought no hitters in the 7th inning, and then they give up a 6 spot.
Yep.
It happens all the time. And like that, it doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't matter. And I think that's, I mean, it's fun to talk about, right? It's fun to tweet about. It's fun to post about, but like, who cares? Like, it's cool now.
Never heard of it.
But I guarantee you, like, next year when they're playing the World Series, if the announcers don't bring it up, people won't remember.
Yeah, if you know, you know.
Now you know, because they want to put it on Instagram so they can get freaking traction.
Who you know.
It is kind of crazy that it's only the second one in the history of the World Series, though.
It's absolutely crazy. Mind blowing. And they weren't even close. They had one ball that was hit hard that Kyle Tucker got that I can remember.
I was saying it the night before, but I'm like, you boys better save some of those runs. It's like, you know how it goes. It's just that way. And it's, I'd rather win 3-2 and 5-4 than have a blowout. It's like, man, we just wasted a whole bunch of good stuff.
We had a program going on during the game, and the Phillies were just raking, and the kids were going nuts. And he was like, you guys might want to save some of those runs. Right, save some of those.
And then they got freaking shut out. Yeah, they got goose egged.
Chaotic.
It is, isn't it? Like, yeah, it's just, that's the game, man. Honestly, that's everything, really. Like, and I think that the opposite of living, and you don't want to live in chaos, as in like turmoil, like everything's like a tornado inside of your house, right? That's not what you guys are talking about, right? It's the ability to to adapt, to grow.
I think the only constant is change, right?
100%. Exactly. But it's like you approach that, you have to approach that in your life too, right? If you wake up and just treat everything the same, like, you're going to look up and going to be 75 and have no relationships and have a 401k that has you on a fixed income that you barely scrape by on. And
nobody cares. Again.
Exactly, right? That's got to be the new tagline. I like that. That's going on a shirt too. Yeah. That's perfect. But it's just, that's the whole deal, right? And that you can absolutely decide that. That is not just a freaking colloquialism that people talk about. You can absolutely decide it. I've done it. Like this week, I've done it well and I've done it crappy. And you know what? When I did it crappy, it was a crappy day. Like, when I woke up and was like, I'm not going to choose to fight against everything else I have going on in my life. All the frustrations, all the emotions, I'm not going to choose to see the opposite that's there too. And what happened? I saw what I thought about, all day long. And it sucked. And I got to the end, and I was like, man, I yelled at my kids like 8 times a day. Sheesh, well done, dude. Moron. Let's be better next time, dude.
Well, it's like you're driving and you're in a hurry and you hit every red light. I mean, it's just the way it goes. It's
almost every freaking time, right?
just the way it goes, you know.
Yeah, it's just
it's a humbling game we play.
It's just that's the only way to describe it, right? It's quite humbling all the time. Being force fed a pie most of the time, so you're just like, hey, I'm sick of that one. Can we have a different flavor, please? Oh man. That's awesome. I love it.
Hey, what are the dates that you're coming out here? We can kind of let our peoples know that they want to come and hang out with you.
Yeah, I haven't 100% finalized it.
Early January, right? Something like that.
Yeah, like first and second week of January, maybe something like that. Like not the complete, just like in that range. That's what I was thinking.
Party at Fuel Factory.
Say less. Every day.
Yeah, bring plenty of cheddar biscuits.
That's awesome. I love it, man. But when I get all my merch stuff figured out, I'm gonna send y'all what I have, and I'm gonna buy some for y'all so y'all can wear it if you want. Or
everybody, if you provide me with something, I will for sure incorporate it.
I mean, you could definitely use it to wipe your butt too. That's okay. But yeah, that's
for sure.
That's what I'm thinking, just around there, and then yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I don't know a whole lot about it yet. I'm trying to get through Thanksgiving, then life loosens up a little bit. Well, I say that. It won't.
Yeah.
So,
one extra time.
Yeah. That's right. So yeah, once I get the dates finalized and stuff, I'll get it to you, and we can roll from there.
Love it.
It's so good. I love it. All right, y'all.
A few covers.
I know y'all got to go back and do your thing. So
yeah, we're gonna go. Cause some chaos around here and see what happens.
Might as well
see if anybody gets better today at dealing with the chaos.
That's just chaos manager. That's your next shirt.
It's kind of like the idea, though, right? Like it never gets easier. You just get better. Where it's like we Libby has a whiteboard at his house, and we've been doing inchworms, and he wrote on it, "Inchworms suck. Must do more." But it's like, that's one of those things we're talking about where it's like, you're uncomfortable. We could pick a lot easier exercise, and it's a simple one. It looks easy, but you go through and you do it and you add some variables, some little differences, and all of a sudden
they suck.
That's
probably important.
All right, y'all. Go do what you do. Appreciate y'all.
Thanks for breathing. Love you.
Same. Love you, man.
Who now? Thanks for listening. Dada.
Thank you so much for watching. I'm sure you were able to get a lot out of that. So because of that, make sure that you share this, right? Make sure that you put it out on social media, on your stories. Make sure that you subscribe, give us a 5-star review, because our passion is to see the game grow, and our passion is to see you become the best baseball or softball player that you can. So go ahead and do that for us, and I can't wait to see you on the next episode.